Okay. Yes, just okay. 2 years ago, I found myself in a room like this one, only filled with people to officially announce the launch of Collective. During my opening speech, I noted that our generation is the load-bearing generation of the 21st century, and that we were the last generation with a real opportunity to change the trajectory of our world. 2 years fast forwards, and I still stand by those words. If anything, my belief has only been reaffirmed. These past 2 years, the world has faced incredible challenges, from Black Lives Matter to numerous climate-related disasters, to COVID, the crisis in Nigeria, in Guinea, in Afghanistan, and not to forget the conflicts between Palestine and Israel. At times, these events opened our eyes and made us stand together as one humanity. But unfortunately, at other times, they were the cause of much hate and polarization. The world has never been this polarized. More than ever before, our ability to engage in dialogue with each other, share our experience, and relate to one another in this ever polarizing world is essential to finding sustainable solutions to curb the imminent storm that we will face. Amidst all this crisis, however, students at The Hague University could count on fellow students who shared similar struggles to voice themselves on the platform that is Collective. Over the past 2 years, Collective has published many articles that have sparked interest, led to conversations, and created awareness. Writers, students who hail from different parts of the world shared their voice with Collective. Today, we are here to celebrate our accomplishments as a magazine, but we are also here to take a step into the future to a reformed Collective. Good evening, everyone. It is so great for you to be joining us either online, either on Instagram or via YouTube. My name is Hadietou Bari, and I will be your host during this Collective Relaunch event. Unfortunately, we have to do it online, but I have to tell you that we were really looking forward to organizing something physical and for you all to be here at The Hague University and for all of us to engage in beautiful dialogue with one another. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we have to do it this way, but we're still going to make a beautiful event out of it. Momentarily, we will start with a speech from Fenna Milbauer, who is the editor-in-chief of Collective. After that, we are going to have two beautiful panels with writers, but also Collective managers to talk about this relaunch and their ideas of how Collective is going to be looking like in the future. So with that being said, I am going to pass the floor to Fenna. I know you're online, but help me in welcoming her. Fenna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claudia. Hello, everyone. 2 years ago, I attended an event that was actually in this space here in Innovation Playground at the university. And that is when I met the founder of Collective, Vincent Rump. And he's now become a close friend of mine. And it was one of those times where you're at an event and you really have to push yourself to kind of like talk to someone. So I did that. I was bold and I went up to him and I told him that I wanted to write. And Collective came into my life at a time when I was really looking for a creative outlet. And I ended up writing an article for the first magazine. And that was about our generation and how inspirational we are. And I have seen how inspirational our generation is because of the work of everyone who's involved in Collective. And it was really a big thing for me to become the editor. It was a very difficult step to take. But like I said before, it showed me how motivational and how inspiring all of you are. And we got to work right after we launched the first edition on the second edition. And sadly, we had to launch that during the beginning of quarantine, and that posed a lot of challenges for us. But we also really overcame and we got over it and we produced amazing quality work. And now our magazine continues to grow since that time. We've gotten bigger and bigger. We've gotten more team members who have so many inspirational perspectives and articles that have changed the way that I think and see the world around me. And that's why I'm so excited to talk about our two new editions, the update, the relaunch, what we're doing today, which is that we're splitting the magazine into two parts. The first is called Collective Thoughts, and Collective Thoughts is really about creating a platform for creative writing. So our writers are talking about the world from their perspective. They're writing creative writing pieces, they're writing poetry. It can be anything. The second is the Collective Reporter, which, like its name, is more journalistic. So we have people who are doing interviews, who are looking at current events and talking about the world around them. I'm excited about these two new versions of the magazine because it's so different than what we've done before, but it is also so similar. We are still dedicated to creating a space for students to write about what they want to write about, to create a platform for students to use their voice. So Collective on the surface might be changing. It might look a little different because we have these two magazines, but the core essence of what we do has stayed the same. So I'm excited to see where Collective goes. I'm excited to see what the next few years bring us. I'm excited for the team to really embrace change because that's what we're all about. Embracing change is probably the thing that we've seen so much throughout this entire time through COVID. And I'm really proud of the team. So thank you. And thank you everyone for the support because we would not be able to do this without you all. So I'm going to give the floor back to Hadia.
Thank you. And you can stay right here because I have some questions for you that I wanted to ask to you. Obviously, 2 years ago, you and we met at the launching, during the launch, and that was the moment where Vincent handed you the torch and the confidence as well, to continue with Collective as the editor-in-chief. And so I guess I wonder, when that moment was announced and you became the editor, is this what you would imagined that we would look like?
Not at all. But I think, like what I was saying before, for me, I think the pandemic has showed us that things can be done in really different ways. And it's taught me a lot about kind of embracing what comes on your path. So I actually like the fact that Collective looks differently than anything that I could have expected, because that is embracing the creativity. The different people who have come in and out of our team have all brought elements that have brought us to this point. So yes and no.
I love that answer. And so, with a new path often comes also challenges. So what do you think is going to be a challenge for Collective moving forward, and how do you plan on overcoming that?
I think the biggest challenge is getting our name out there and making sure that people know who we are. And I think that's difficult, especially during times like these when we're going in and out of lockdowns. And on one hand, you are in school and then the next hand you're not. And I think that the only way that we can really overcome that is working as a team to make sure that people know of our existence.
Love that. Okay, I have one last question for you, Fana. You seem to have a talent of gathering amazing and extremely hardworking people for this magazine. I mean, I might be a little biased, but I'm just gonna say it. How are you doing that? Like, what's your secret?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think for me, I am not the type of person who necessarily is very outward with the things that I'm good at. So I sort of have a sense, what I try to do is approach someone in the way that I wish I was approached. So I think of myself 3 years ago, I would never be talking in the way that I was talking. I would never be comfortable in settings like these. But I know that what I needed was support, and for there to be someone behind me telling me I could do it. So that's what I try to be in that sense. I think that's how I bring these people into the team. Yes. I see that someone has a really amazing talent, and often we just feel like we need to be heard and seen in order to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And with that being said, we're actually going to move forward. Yes, we can go. Thank you so much for your answers. We can move forward to the next segment. With that being said, I also want to take the opportunity to say that we would not be here if it wasn't for obviously Vincent, who came with this idea 2 years ago, and then the first two other people next to me who were sitting here, and then later obviously the team. So this is actually kind of a shout out to all those people who made this a reality, the ones that came and have gone, but also the ones that are still here. Collective is a team effort. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen and everyone, we are going to move to the next segment where we're going to be talking to two collective writers who I'm going to invite you to the stage, and this is going to be a hybrid session. Rumbi, if you can put your camera on, then we can also see you. Amazing. And if she can be spotlighted. Okay, when she speaks, that's going to happen. Amazing. So I want to explain a little bit how this panel is going to be working. I will momentarily start with asking you guys two general questions that from which I want both of you to answer. And after that, I have read some articles that you guys have written, and I just have some questions about that because I felt like there's so much room for conversation. And a collective, we do want to spark like that conversation and engage in conversation with one another. So that is what we are going to be doing. So it might be like one-sided, and then after that, we go to the other person. But we are going to start with the first question, and that is, can you guys introduce yourselves? Let's start with you.
Well, I'm Ko. I'm a first year ICM student, which is International Communication Management. I am half Argentinian, half Italian, and I moved here just this August to study. I had actually started studying communication back home in Argentina, but I like this style better. And I also thought I could benefit from a more international approach. So I moved here. And ever since I moved here, everything has been an adventure, especially since I joined Collective, actually.
Oh, we love to hear that. Amazing. Thank you. And Ruby, can you introduce yourself to us?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Rumbi, and I am a second-year student in the International and European Law program. I moved to the Netherlands in 2020, in August 2020, and I joined Collective, I believe, in September of 2020. So almost that was one of the first things I did when I got here. Yeah, I'm from Zimbabwe, and yeah, Collective has really been a big part of my experience since I've been here, and it's really just been a great experience so far.
That is really good to hear, guys. I love hearing that. So actually, my second question was asking you what your overall experience has been with Collective. You are like one of our latest members. Yeah. What's your experience been?
I joined Collective during the warm welcome week, so I hadn't even started class. I met Fena actually in the warm welcome week in an activity randomly, and I already knew about Collective and I wanted to write for Collective. However, I didn't know who the Collective, like the people that actually wrote for them were. And ever since I met Fena, it was, I don't know, it all started flowing in a way.
Yeah.
I was offered to choose whether to write for Collective Thoughts and Collective Reporter, and I actually chose both. And yeah, it has been really interesting. I had a lot of support from everyone in the team, especially the editors who helped me a lot because it was my first time publishing, and yeah, it was amazing actually so far. It was an amazing experience.
That is really good to hear. You did an amazing job, and later on we are going to talk about that precisely. And you, Rimbi, what has been your overall experience?
My overall experience has been amazing, like to say the least. It's literally been like a dream come true because I've always wanted to write articles. I've always wanted to, share my opinions, my words, and this has been a really great platform to do so. I've also managed to meet some pretty amazing people that I otherwise wouldn't have met, and really it's been a feeling of being supported, being heard, and yeah, it's just been a once in a lifetime opportunity for me, honestly, and I'm really happy about it.
That is great to hear, guys. I love these stories. Oh my God, amazing. So now we're going to be moving and talking about your article. If I'm not mistaken, titled Finding Home. And in your article, you said, we all miss something from home. Besides family, what is it that you miss the most?
That's actually a very good question. And it's something that I was thinking about a lot when I wrote the article, because the things that I miss the most are the things that I valued the least, actually. So when I was saying goodbye, I obviously said goodbye to family, to friends, to the places that I really, really liked. But I didn't really say goodbye to some very small things. Like, I don't know, the way that we hug when we meet. And that's something that doesn't really happen here as much. And there are these small details, like the music, the language, the idea of understanding the people that speak the language in the streets. That's something that I never thought I would miss. But when I came here and I didn't have that anymore, that was like a huge homesickness moment, breaking up with the idea of having all of these things that made my comfort zone comfortable.
Yeah.
So I would say that probably.
Did you experience a cultural shock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually really funny because when I moved here, I was living in Rijswijk. I'm not very good with my Dutch pronunciation, but yeah. And I was actually there for about 3 weeks before I moved to The Hague. And the first time I went outside and I wanted to cross the street, I didn't realize that you have to touch like the button. So the light was not changing and it wasn't changing. And I was standing there staring at the street light. It didn't change at all. And then I saw someone like stood next to me and touched the light and it immediately changed. And I was like, oh my God.
But you hadn't seen it at all.
No, because we don't really have that. So I wasn't even looking for it,
Obviously. Yeah. Well, now you know. Moving on, as you nicely and I think also accurately put it, we always choose how to present ourselves and how to portray our countries, etc., etc. Having lived here for a few months now, how have you chosen to present yourself and portray your country?
That's a complex question. I actually had a bit of a struggle when I moved here because I didn't realize how my personality was very Latin American in a way. I had always lived in Argentina. So when I moved here, I started noticing that people here do some things differently. And I also started noticing that in my family, we do some things in a very like Italian way, which is interesting because I hadn't noticed that before. So it was all of a situation in which I was trying to find out who I was and how I belonged in the countries where I belong to, like in Italy and in Argentina and also in the Netherlands, obviously. And it was quite hard at first because here I had the opportunity to sort of reinvent myself. And everyone around me was talking about how they wanted to change themselves, how they wanted to become a different version of themselves. However, even from the beginning, I didn't want that. Like, I felt really odd because I didn't want that. I wasn't attracted to the idea of changing my personality. The thing that I wanted for real was to become, as people say, unapologetically me. Like, I wanted to become myself as much as possible and to grow into the person that I was already inside, but I wasn't showing as much. So I think that's the way, like, I tried to portray myself as me and my country, my cultures as the best I could, but I'm also no representative of neither. So of course, I mean, I'm just
I understand. Me. Yeah, no, but that is a really beautiful, beautiful answer. And the thing is, there is no right or wrong, everything you say, it's your opinion to which you are entitled. And if that's how you feel, then that's how it is. Rumi, you also moved to the Netherlands to study. I also wonder, how did you choose to represent yourself? Is it different than how you used to represent yourself back home?
Yeah, I think it is. I think when I was still at home, I wasn't that immersed in my culture. I was, but not as much as I am now. I didn't really always consider it or like put much emphasis on it. And then when I got here, I really started missing home and missing the culture and missing, like what you're saying, the language and being able to understand everyone and the places. And yeah, it really was difficult trying to become this new version of myself, like being in university, being away from home, but also still trying to remember where I came from, like making the food from home, speaking the language to like people who I've met here. So yeah, it was a bit difficult, a bit different, trying to navigate who I am and who I was becoming when I moved here.
Yeah, wow. It's crazy, because normally when you're at home, you don't really think about those things. But when you move, you are forced to do that. Thank you guys for sharing that. Moving on, in your article, you said, we needed the freedom of the unknown to allow us to explore and be courageous enough to go the distance to find it. I truly liked reading that. However, I do have to say that the fact that you stipulated the freedom of the unknown is very interesting, because one could argue that there is not much freedom in the unknown, as it can also be cause of much uncertainty. And uncertainty is like a big evil. It's like the one thing that people like the least. So as courageous as it may be, what is liberating about the unknown, taking into consideration the possible uncertainty that may come with it?
Well, I would say that the unknown gives room for exploration and room for growth. And also it gives the space for you to have new challenges that you never experienced before, because the unknown is exactly the point where the comfort zone ends. Mm-hmm. And then you don't have that anymore, the shelter that your own home provided. And to me, the comfort of the unknown, the freedom of it, is the possibility to do whatever I felt was best, mm-hmm. without having limiting factors like who everyone thought I was, how people expected me to behave or to be, mm-hmm. which I always had at home because people already knew me and knew who I was. Yeah. But when I moved here, the reason I wrote that is because I could be anyone and no one knew, mm-hmm. and no one had any expectations. And that's the freedom of the unknown to me.
Yeah. You get to explore yourself in a new way that you could not do at home.
Yeah, you have no boundaries because no one knows. So you could be the funny person, you could be the very reflective person, you could be, I don't know, a good writer, a good singer, you could be anything and no one really knows.
Yeah.
And unless you choose to show that part of yourself, people are not gonna see it. Mm-hmm. So you can just show yourself when you feel comfortable and in the ways that make you feel comfortable as well.
Nice. You choose who you want to be.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Or you can choose also which of the things that you're bringing with yourself are going to limit you in the future, mm-hmm. and which ones you can let go and not have those limits anymore and just grow beyond them.
I love that. It's actually quite inspirational. Okay, let's move on. Everybody seems to be looking for the place that one spot in this big, scary world that we can all call our own. Have you found your place?
Well, actually, that's a very good question, because there are days in which I'm very sure I did, and that I'm in the right place, that I have the right friends, that I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in collective with the activities that I'm doing, with the classes that I'm taking, with everything in my flat as well. Mm-hmm. And there are other days in which I'm questioning everything. Yesterday, for example, I was questioning everything, every decision I made that brought me here, because I am still struggling. I've been here for just a few months, so I'm still sometimes struggling with being here and being far away. And I, for example, will not be able to go back to Argentina at least until 2023.
Oh, wow.
So that's 1.5 years at least away. And that sometimes makes me think that that is maybe my home, mm-hmm. and that I'm missing it. But other times my home is here. Okay. And the point I would love to get, if everything goes well, is to find home in the people that I love and in the activities that I do and in myself, because I would love to travel and move around. And I feel that finding home in myself and making home wherever I am is the thing, the place where I want to get to.
Yeah. Do you see yourself finding a home in collective?
I think I already did.
Oh, amazing. Love it. That's really nice. Okay, so you have actually written for both Collective Thoughts and Collective Reporter.
Yes.
What was for you the main difference?
Well, Collective Reporter was a big step for me because, well, I wrote my article for Collective Thoughts first. And that one was, in a way, easier to write because it was less structured. I had the idea very early on, and then I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to say, and I could just let myself flow because I was more like comfortable with the genre and with the limits that I had, let's say. Yeah. With Collective Reporter, it was a bit more of a struggle, as maybe Gary might recall, because I had to ask him a lot of questions. I had never written an article before, like a formal one. Yeah. So I had a lot of questions of how do you do this? How do you face the challenges that come with it? And yeah, I probably annoyed him to death with the questions. But in the end, I think I figured it out. And the one that I'm writing now is coming along easier. Okay. Yeah, it's still different genre, but I think that once you find your place in the genre, it's easier. Yeah. So yes,
definitely agree. And asking questions is only good. You can only get better.
Yeah, of course.
Keep doing that. So the article that you wrote on Collective Reporter was about gender equality.
Yes.
For everyone who hasn't read these articles from both Rumbi and Hu, I definitely recommend you to read them because they're really good. I enjoyed reading it very much. But what I wanted to say is you wrote about gender equality. And because the structure is different, you did not necessarily like give your own opinions in this report or in this article. And I do want to hear some of your own opinions. So my question is, what is your view on the gender quota?
Well, I don't really know if it works. I'm gonna be very honest because there's no way of knowing if a policy is gonna work until it's set in place and people are actually following it or not, and seeing how it works in each particular situation. Obviously, because we are talking about people, it depends so much on personal beliefs, on personal ideas, on how people handle themselves at work. And it's impossible to know before you actually applied it. Having said that, of course, I think that there's something that has to be done to achieve more equality. Yeah. And one of the quotes that I included in the article and that I was reading a lot was people believing that women are less qualified to be in roles of like power or in maybe the board of a company. And maybe this is the way to end that, because if people see women in positions of power, in positions where they are usually not considered to be fit, however they obviously are, depending on their qualifications, of course. But yeah, I think that might end that, the stereotypical women are not meant for this approach, you know, and you have no excuse but to put the best candidate, regardless of gender or any other discriminatory factor. Like you can just choose the person for the person and the qualifications that they have.
Definitely agree. And talking about discriminatory factors, how much of a role do you think that sexism plays in the lack of women on boardrooms?
Well, after the research, I can definitely say that a lot. A lot of people believe, unfortunately, that women are not fit for these kinds of positions, that women are more comfortable in maybe low positions in the hierarchy, that they are more comfortable with positions where they are not in the spotlight. And I unfortunately believe that this has been spread a lot in society. But this is obviously not true. It depends a lot on the person. And I think that if a woman decides that she wants to be in a position of power because she possesses the qualifications, the characteristics, the personality to do so, she is no different than a man that chooses to do this. And this should not depend on gender, it should depend on personality. So if your personality leads you to a leading role or not.
Yeah, agreed. And then one last question for you, because we also have to move on with time. But what is the greatest challenge that we have to face concerning equality in the workplace? And are you optimistic about the future, considering that you wrote and did this research?
I am, because I think a lot of people are trying to find solutions, and we are so many people in the world that if everyone is trying to find a solution, we are definitely going to find one. I cannot say which the solution is, whether it's gender quota or not. However, yeah, I'm optimistic that we're going to find a solution.
Nice. It's up to our generation to make things happen, guys.
Yeah,
So
of course.
keep this all in mind. Thank you so much. You can still say I am going to move forward to Rumbi because I also read your articles and I love them. So I have some questions for you as well. The article that I read is the one about body positivity. And so my question is, what do you think is the best way to ensure equal treatment of people without bias based on physical appearances?
I think the best way to do that is to try and remember that we're all human. We all have our flaws. We're all different in how we are and what we look like, and that doesn't change your abilities. That we all have an inherent value, inherent thoughts, opinions, and abilities. And I think, yeah, I think that's the best way to move forward, to not discriminate against people, to remember that regardless of what we look like on the outside, inside we all have value, we all have something to offer.
I love that. I really love that. So to view beauty and to an extent health through one lens is to erase the struggles of many other people. This is something that you said in your article, and I really loved it. And what I wanted to ask is, what do you view as beauty?
Um, this might sound cliche, but I think beauty is inside, and the way you express yourself, it shows like the beauty that's inside. Yeah, I think it's subjective. Like I think everyone is beautiful in their own way, and it just depends on how you decide to view it, really.
Yeah, nice. And do you think that there can or should be such a thing as like a beauty standard, like a universal beauty standard?
No, there shouldn't be, because we're all different. Like I said, like even siblings are different, so we can't set a standard for everyone because we're all different in how we look. And yeah, it's just not something that helps anyone, because there are beauty standards now and it clearly hasn't helped anyone. So to try and set a standard for everyone just doesn't work, because we are different, and in those differences, that's how the beauty of all of us comes out, really.
I love that. And what do you think, like society and we as students, because like we are a lot on social media, and on social media, you obviously see a lot of different standards of what beauty is or should be, which, as we just have established, should not be the case. What do you think that as a society we need to do to ensure that there is a shift in our thinking?
I think we can start with acknowledging that being different doesn't mean ugly, doesn't mean bad. So, yeah, acknowledging that those differences are there. And I think also celebrating those differences, because I think sometimes we forget that, just being you, just how you are, is beautiful. And you're perfect the way you are. So I think that's how we can shift that, by acknowledging the differences and celebrating those differences as well.
I love that. You are perfect the way you are. Yes, you girls are so inspiring, by the way. I love listening to both of you. Let's see what else I have here. So in your article, you said systematic changes are the only way we will be able to achieve any lasting results. I think my question that I just asked is a little bit similar, but can you elaborate on what you meant with these systematic changes?
So with that, I mean acknowledging, like I said, acknowledging the differences and acknowledging that we all need different things. So like when it comes to people with disabilities, you need to make sure that they're accommodated for. And that's not just like the physical disabilities that you can see. So people who need a ramp to get to a place, it's people who have disabilities that you can't see. So we need to make sure that regardless of what you look like, of the things that you need, we're all included, we're all appreciated, we're all valued in the differences that we have. So I think that's how we can change the system as it is, acknowledging the differences, accommodating it all. And yeah, I think that's really how we can change it.
Nice. So Rumbi, I want to talk a little bit about the type of articles that you write, because obviously everyone at Collective is incredibly talented and writes beautifully about various interesting topics. But you write about things that are a little different, in my opinion, than, let's say, what is mainstream. And your articles, they explore things that I, as an African person, can actually really appreciate, because yeah, that I can appreciate. So when I'm thinking about an example, is like, for instance, the article about Don't Touch My Hair, or hashtag Awake and Aware. They allow me to learn new things and new perspectives. And I feel that Africa is, in a sense, a little bit included through your articles, or at least the African perspective. So what I wanted to ask you is, what inspires you to write these specific type of articles?
What inspires me really is just me wanting to read such things, because I love reading about articles about Africa, learning more about, other African countries, because even though I grew up in Zimbabwe and Africa, you don't always hear about other places. So I thought this was a perfect way for me to do the research and find out more, and also to share it with other people, because it's not half the fun in getting knowledge is also sharing it with other people. So yeah, really that's what inspired me. And yeah, just like having a different perspective from what we usually see, just seeing something different, really.
Yeah, and why are these stories fundamental within the Collective?
um I think it's fundamental because we, like you said, we have different people, we have different writers who write about very different things. And I think this is just one way to bring in something new, something that is also very relevant. I think the two articles that I wrote about are things that people do deal with, things that are happening now. So I think it's just a way to introduce that conversation, let people know about what's going on.
Yes, agreed. So my final question that I had written for you is about one of the articles that you wrote, and it's actually one of my favorite articles from you. It's called "Do Good Intentions Outweigh Bad Outcomes?" And in that article, you stated, "It's more than just how you help people. It's also about why you want to help." I think that this statement is so important, but at the same time, very much undervalued. And so what I wanted to know is, why was it so important for you to put it the way you did on that article?
I think it was important for me to put it that way because I think it's not something that people usually think about. It's not a perspective people usually consider. I think when I wrote the article, I was thinking about a lot of things. I'd done a lot of research on it, and I just wanted to like bring up that question, bring up that conversation, so people can think about it, talk about it. Yeah, I think at the time I was just going through after doing the research, I was thinking about a lot of things and how really to bring across the message. And I thought that would be the best way to really start the conversation, because the article was really about starting a conversation about the issues that I mentioned. And yeah, I thought that was the best way to bring it forward.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hu and Rumbi, for joining us. Yeah, we're gonna move to the next segment. Now, it was really amazing talking to these beautiful writers, but now we are going to this next segment and also the final segment of this event, and that is talk with the collective managers. So actually, guys, you can, yes, put your cameras on. Hello, Kinza, Irene, and Flavia, welcome. We don't see Flavia. Yes, there she is. Amazing. It's so good seeing you guys. How are you doing? Let's start with you, Kinza.
Yeah, we were all politely waiting for one another to talk. I'm good. Yeah. This feels different than the launch because I was there and I remember running around. But sitting down and just listening was also really nice for once, I guess. So I'm good.
That is good to hear. Thank you. And what about you, Irene?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you and engage with the audience and see what they think.
Nice. And you, Flavia?
I'm good, excited somehow with this. Yeah, it's good that we managed to have this relaunch, even if it is online.
Yeah, we really did want to have it like physically and with a lot of beautiful things. We had amazing ideas, but COVID, unfortunately, it's still with us. So because we don't have much time, I would just actually jump into the questions. And I am going to start with you again, Kinza, because you and we met during the launch day of the first event. And I remember I saw you and you were asking, can I do something to help? And then you were helping so much. It was like you were part of the team. But I wonder, what inspired you after that to be part of Collective?
So Sana is one of those people that causes chain reactions because she came up to me and told me that I have a story to share. Apparently, I wasn't aware of that, but I did. And then I wrote an article, and as I wrote, I got to editing my own article, of course. And after that, I assisted in other articles, and that just kept going. And suddenly, Fana told me I could be a content manager along AGA, and that was awesome. And then I just continued, and now here I am.
2 years later.
Yeah.
Nice. And Flavia, you were also there at the event. I remember you were sitting like in the front. What inspired you?
I think it was your energy, like everyone's energy there that wrote the article, the idea of putting there the art of being heard, like we said before. And I think that the family that you try to create and actually managed to, everything that included writing, of course, even if I was scared somehow to come to the event because I was new there, like in The Hague, especially, I didn't know, but it was worth it.
Nice. Love to hear that. And what about you, Irene? Because you joined us a little later, but you also became a manager. What was your inspiration?
Well, I was the quarantine baby of the family. I saw a post on the general Instagram for the university that actually Aga, one of our past members, made, where she introduced Collective, and I thought that the magazine was beautiful, and I saw the illustrations. So I was like, "Huh, what about illustrating for a magazine?" So I emailed the magazine. 'Cause I lost my phone. Yeah, my beginning in Collective was a bit chaotic, but it worked out very, very well. So I just emailed in and I said, hey, these are my skills. This is what I can bring to the table. Would this be something that suits Collective? And I've been illustrating articles ever since.
And you do a great job.
Thank you.
Keep on doing that. Let's say, moving on, what is the impact that this relaunch is going to have on your work? So if all three of you can like just briefly explain what impact this launch is going to have on your work. Let's start with you, Irene.
So from the design perspective, we have to adapt to the new image we've created, which was very exciting to work on because of course we wanted to keep the essence of the classic Collective, but just portray the new image for the new magazines. So it's going to be challenging to get to adapt and keep those constant since we haven't worked with them much. They're just the first iteration, but I'm excited to see how the team handles it. And I'm excited to create more beautiful magazines.
Nice. Love to hear that. And what about you, Kinza?
So as of right now, I do mostly secretary work and marketing, a little bit of assistance with Flavia. So personally, for me, it changed the fact that I'm no longer as involved as a content manager, but I'm seeing, not Flavia, I'm seeing Nandi and Gary thrive in both of their teams, and it's so inspiring. And I love hearing from the writers because they do still text me. And I don't know. I feel like it won't change that much because it's been a while since I kind of stepped back, but I'm just excited to see it happening, honestly.
Yeah. I like actually the fact that you decided to step back and to give someone else the floor to take on that step and that challenge. So that is actually really beautiful. What about you, Flavia? Is there something that's going to change for you?
A lot changed, I guess. The idea of putting like the two magazines, trying to make them equally seen by people, let's say so. I'm still trying to figure it out. We are still trying to figure it out how to put both magazines nicely on Instagram, or how to make people read them and access the website as well. And especially how we're going to put them in the website.
Nice. Looking forward to seeing all those little changes. So let's see, moving forward. Do you guys think that collective is diverse and inclusive? I'm gonna start with Flavia.
Yes, yes, it is. I think collective and diversity inclusive can be somehow synonyms. Um, I think everybody put a little bit of their souls, let's say so, in this. So, yeah, collective is actually trying to make people realize that diversity exists as something that we don't have to, um, let's say, cancel, because there was an article at some point about canceling the culture and things like that. And it's something that we have to manage to put it out there for people to see it.
Yes. And what do you think, Irene?
I think one of the things that I love the most about Collective is that our doors are always open for anyone and everyone that wants to join. And we pretty much focus on highlighting their passions and their abilities, regardless of where they come from or how they dress, anything, any characteristic they have. We just have our doors open and are willing to help anyone that wants to join. So in that sense, I believe we are building a diverse team, and we can pretty much see it in everyone that joins.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, and Kinza, you obviously do your internship at the research, let's say, lectorate for diversity and inclusion. What is your view?
I think yes and no, in the sense of we're very self-aware of what needs to be done and about other organizations and how we can either mirror that or avoid mistakes. So to be diverse and inclusive is to know when you're not. And I feel like we do that. And we cover topics that a lot of organizations tend to avoid. So I'm very grateful for that as well. And we've covered topics that I disagree with, and I love that, because I want to be like challenged in the way that I've had writers who've written things where I was like, oh, I don't agree with this at all. Why am I being such a pain? But I still edit it, I still talk to them, and then at the end I have like this broadened perspective. So yeah, definitely. But also yes and no, basically. That's it.
Yeah, but that is something that is really important for us at Collective, is that you don't have to have the same opinion as everyone else. We just want you to voice your opinion, and whether someone agrees with it or not, that doesn't really matter. But know that you have a platform, or that there is a platform for you to express yourself. And then we have come actually to my final question for you, girls, and that is, what is for you the essence of Collective? Let's start with you, Flavia.
I think the essence of collective are all the people that are putting effort into putting it together, not only the magazine, because we're not defined only by the magazine, but the activities that we're trying to do, the workshops, the people that are reading, because are reading our magazine, because we cannot exist without our readers, and people who actually engage in our conversations. So I think this is like a nice definition to put it out there, because we are an art magazine, we write, we explore music, we explore everything that comes in our way.
Nice. I like that. And what about you, Kinza?
The essence is that we look for voices that need to be heard, and not only in art schools, but also in photographers, in dancers, and in artists. And our own designers in themselves are artists, and our writers are like, honestly, I feel like words are also art, so they are as well. And I feel like we're amplifying that. And I'm a broken record because I've said this so many times. But I feel like we amplify voices that go unheard. And that is our essence at the end of the day. Because you could say, oh, this perspective, I've heard of it so many times before. But maybe that's your echo chamber in which you've been and in which you've heard that perspective. But I might have heard it for the first time. So our scope is very broad, and basically that allows us to do that continuously.
Nice. Love that. Thank you. And then what about you, Irene?
To me, there are two things that are key when it comes to collective and its essence. On one hand, we are trying to create bridges in between the different faculties and the different studies in our university. So it's a place where a lot of different expertises come together and learn from each other. But on the other hand, I think it's key that all these people that are joining because they believe in the project and they have a passion for it. So it's just something selfless that everyone does to create this beautiful family and share that with others.
I love that. Thank you so much, girls, for tuning in from different parts of the world. It's really amazing that you guys could make time to join us today. That was actually the managers panel, and now I'm gonna look at the people watching and tell you thank you so much for tuning in for during this hour to listen to our writers, to our editor-in-chief, and to the collective managers and myself. It has been a pleasure standing here and talking to these people, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where the collective is going to lead us with this new path that it has chosen to take. I want to thank every single person who has worked on Collective, who's currently working on Collective, and who has put some effort into the making of this magazine before, and also to those who will come after us. We are, as Irene just said it, one big family, and we continue to grow. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you at our next event, and hopefully it will be physical. And for now, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye. You know what I noticed?